Hello, everybody, and good day to you. This is the Everything Medicare Podcast. My name is Christian Brindle, and today is September 17th, 2018. I want to start off this podcast by saying I apologize to everyone who is a weekly listener who was expecting a podcast last week and we didn't deliver. This time of the year, folks, it's really, really difficult for us to do a podcast, especially on Mondays, as we're preparing for the annual election period and just have a lot on our plates. We're taking care of our customers, our clients, and, just making sure that we're doing everything in our power to efficiently get all the information out to you as quickly and effectively as possible. For those of you who have been listening to me since I started this podcast earlier this year, you know that every single week I bring you a podcast where I talk about your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with your retirement. Well, starting next week, we will be not bringing you the podcast on Mondays. But that doesn't mean we're not bringing you a podcast. It's just during the week, during the annual election period, the open enrollment period that starts in October, where everybody can make changes to their plan. It's just not possible, folks, for us to be able to do a podcast every Monday. Sorry. So, for the time being, starting next week, we will be doing the podcast on Sundays. It's the least busy day for us. We still are very busy on Sundays. We work 7 days a week during the annual election period. But it's the best day for us to do a podcast for you. We don't want to stop doing podcasts, which I considered shutting the podcast down until after the enrollment period, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that I was doing my part of bringing you a podcast each and every week, like I'm supposed to do. Now that I've got that over with, we're talking this week about the annual election period, also known as AEP, the open enrollment period where people can make changes from October 15th through December 7th. This week we're also talking about ANOCs. This applies to folks that have Medicare Advantage plans. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you will be receiving, if you haven't already, I know folks with one insurance company or a few insurance companies have already received their ANOCs. Don't ask me how I know, and I won't disclose which insurance companies that is because I'm not supposed to. However, ANOCs are annual notice of change. ANOC, A-N-O-C, ANOC. Basically, folks, it compares your plan last year to this year, and it goes over everything that's changing. Typically what they do is they have in this case, the 2018 version of your plan on one side and what's changing in 2019 on the other side. So they're supposed to be a very user-friendly way of going over the changes, but they're big books. And most people don't usually go through them all. Some people do. But if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, keep your eye in the mail for an ANOC. There's something that is required by CMS, which is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, that each insurance company sends them out if you have a Medicare Advantage plan through them, regardless of who the insurance company is. So ANOCs, folks, keep your eye in your mail for your ANOCs. And it can't hurt to glance at them and go through them a little bit before October 1. Because one thing I can tell you, folks, starting October 1, you'll be seeing commercials. You'll be getting tons of mail. You're going to be getting maybe even people knocking on your door knocking, even though that's strictly illegal for people that work with people on Medicare, but people do it anyway. If that happens, folks, I encourage you to make a report of these people. But it still happens. So keep that in mind. Protect yourselves. You don't know these people. These are strangers. It's distasteful, in my opinion. That's why we don't do it. Not just because of the fact it's illegal. Not just door-to-door knocking, folks. You'll see people in booths, in Walmarts and Kroger's, and wherever you live, you'll see people in booths, Walgreens. Typically, they represent one insurance company or many. I talked about last week how people in booths, agents that are in booths, are new agents almost all the time. and they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know how to get in front of people, and they don't know how to give a proper presentation to folks, and they don't know how to efficiently help people. So the only way for them to fill their time is to sit in booths all day. These are new agents, folks. I talked to you about this last week. Stay away from people in booths. Make sure you're working with a good agent. If you have an agent now who's not good, this is the time of the year where you can find a new one. You can fire him. And there's no sense of loyalty with your agent unless he's done a good job for you and he's called you back right away, answered all your questions, the program he has you on did exactly what he told you it would, and if you feel like you're on the best plan, if you feel like he's done a good job, then there's no need. But 9 people out of 10, and I'm very comfortable in saying that, either aren't satisfied with their current agent's performance with them, 1, 2, haven't heard from him since he put you on the plan, and I mean no letters, phone calls, emails, nothing. Just disappeared off the face of the planet. Or 3, has you on a plan that you know you could be on a better one. 9 people out of 10, in my opinion, from my experience, my estimate, it's just a guess, fall into one of those 3 categories with their agent. So this is the time period where you can get a new agent. If you live in Utah, that's our home base. That's where we're located, our headquarters. Give us a call at 801-255-5340. Again, 801-255-5340 at Christian Brindle Insurance Services, and ask for Christian or anybody else that you can get in touch with. And we can help you. We can tell you if there's something better. There's going to be a lot of changes going into next year with Medicare Advantage plans specifically. If you live in Idaho, if you live in Florida, we're also able to work with you in those states. We just can't sit down with you in person, but we can do something virtually. So give us a call if you're in one of those 3 states. If you're not, though, if you're in one of the other 47 states that we don't currently work in, and we will soon, there will be a time and some point where we will work in all 50 states, and we will have an office in all 50 states. We are that kind of company. We are growing. But for the meantime, folks, get recommendations from your friends, your family, your neighbors, people you go to church with. Ask them what their agent does for them. Don't just take their word for it that their agent's good, because chances are they went with the first person they talked to and they don't know if he's good. They haven't had multiple opinions. Stick with me into segment 2, and we'll talk more about how to know if someone's agent is worth working with. Stay right there. Oh, welcome back, folks. This is the Everything Medicare Podcast, and I am your host, where each and every week I, Christian Brindle, bring you a podcast where I talk about your Medicare, your Medicaid, your Social Security, and everything that has to do with your retirement. Folks, this week we're talking about some last-minute tips for the annual election period, aka AEP. As I said in the last segment, we're going to be starting to bring you the podcast on Sundays, starting next week, in preparation of AEP, as we just can't bear the hardship of doing it on Mondays anymore. After the enrollment period, we will go back to Mondays. But for the time being, we're going to have to move it to Sundays, and I really hope you understand. It's just, folks, we take care of thousands of people here as a whole in our offices. From me to my father to our partners, everybody. And it's chaotic, it's hectic, it's crazy. And it's a very busy time of the year for us. I always tell people if we were tax professionals, this would be our tax season. But I don't even think they're as busy as we are in the tax season. Because think about it, it's basically a 2.5 month window where everybody can make changes to their plans. And so everybody's scrambling to do so. And when you have a lot of clients that you're taking care of like we do, it's very chaotic to keep up with everybody. Don't get us wrong. We have staff. We have people helping us take care of all this stuff, but it's still very hectic, very chaotic, very many people meeting with us each and every day. Lots of things going on. So starting next week, we're going to be doing the podcast on Sundays. Back to the topic at hand, some last minute tips. We were talking about how to know if you should work with an agent that's being recommended to you for your friend or family member. Because let's be real, your friend or a family member is not a Medicare expert, folks. They don't know if they were recommended the best thing by their agent. As far as they know, they did, and so they want to recommend their agent to you. You need to know what kind of questions to ask your friend or family member about their agent. Did he go through all the different options in your area? If yes, that's a good sign. If no, then you know he has an agenda about what he should be talking to you about. Number 2, did he do a prescription drug comparison for you? Meaning where he did a prescription drug comparison on Medicare.gov, an unbiased website provided by the government, where it compares every Medicare plan in your area. Only credible agents use this system. If he did, fantastic. That's another good sign. If he didn't, I wouldn't work with him for any reason, because he has an agenda. He does not care about your needs because he's not checking to make sure that what he's offering is the best thing for you. And if he's number 3, is he a captive agent? Meaning that is he restricted to only represent one company for you? This is very important. And I talked about this our last episode. But is he a captive agent? Or is he independent, meaning he can represent multiple insurance companies? If he's captive, run the other way. Because captive agents are going to lie through their teeth to get you to pick up what they want you to pick up, which is what they have. They can't tell you about anything else. They're not going to tell you anything good, or they're not going to tell you there's a better option for you out in the marketplace. It's just not going to happen. So do not work with a captive agent for any reason. You're doing yourself a disservice because you're basically signing up to get biased information and continuous biased information to keep you on the plan that might not be good for you. You never know. So, number 1, what was number 1? Number 1 was, I can't remember what number 1 was, folks. It's been a long day already. We are busy here. Well, number 2 was, does he check your prescriptions? Number 3, is he independent? Number 1, did he show you all the options available? My mistake, folks. Brain freeze. The final thing I will say about this is make sure that he's not about to retire or he didn't just get started. You want someone in the middle. Someone that's gone through their growing pains as a new agent, but maybe not someone that's so experienced that they might, retire or pass on, if you will, in the next couple of years. And you can usually tell just by talking to somebody if they're mentally checked out, professionally, or up there, if you will. You want an agent that's going to be there to take care of you. It doesn't mean you're being judgmental. It doesn't mean you're being cold. It happens to every single person. Every single one of us goes through both of those scenarios. However, when you're picking an agent, you're not doing it for charity, folks. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it to take care of yourself and put yourself in the best position that you possibly can be in. Stay with me into segment 3 and we'll wrap this podcast up, and I'll go over some more gems about how to make you have a successful enrollment period to be on the best program. Stay right there. And we are back for segment 3 of the Everything Medicare Podcast. Folks, the annual election period, AEP, the open enrollment period, whatever you want to call it, is a very important time for you because basically it sets up what your plan is going to be going into next year. Now, there are exceptions as far as changing your plan, especially starting next year, especially if you have a Medicare Advantage plan with there being a second enrollment period placed in, but it works quite a bit differently. And I've talked about this in episodes past. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Folks, the annual enrollment period is something that makes me sigh because I see a lot of people taken advantage of and preyed on each and every year. There's a lot of good people out there that do what I do. There's a lot of good people out there that work with people like you. But there's a lot of bad people too, probably way more bad than good. 90% of people, folks, I read an article the other day, it actually said 89% of people that do what I do, that are insurance specialists and insurance experts, are out of the insurance industry in a 3-year period. That means every single agent that you talk to, there's a 90% chance, if we're rounding up, 89%, 90% chance that they'll be gone. They won't make it in a 3-year period. 3 years down the road, you'll be on your own. You have no one to help you with your plan, no one to give you advice, and you're on an island. You're stuck with a plan that this person sold you, and they didn't even have the courtesy to stay around. 90%. That means 9 out of 10 people you talk to will be gone in 3 years. 9 out of 10. Now, I've already been here longer than that, much longer than that. So I'm already in that 1 out of 10 people. And that's not the only thing you need to think about. You also need to understand that each and every year, 90% of the new agents that are coming into the industry are brand new agents. Because the turnover is so high, people go out, people come in. It's a very high turnover rate, meaning that if you're working with someone who's been in this less than 3 years, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know anything. This is a very complex, complicated industry. It takes a long time to get everything down. And there's a lot to know for someone to be an expert. Chances are they won't know everything you'd want them to know. Even if they know more than you, doesn't mean they know what they're supposed to know. So make sure you're working with someone experienced, but maybe not too experienced to the point where they might kill over or retire before you have a chance to call them again. Folks, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate your support. Since we started this podcast earlier this year, I really do. I'm flattered. It means a lot to me. We've basically cracked about 1,500 listens on our episodes, and I never thought anyone would listen when I started this podcast, because who would want to listen to a podcast about Medicare? I thought it's probably one of the most boring subjects out there to talk about, and you folks surprised even me. Every single one of you that listens each and every week, and it really means the world to me and our company and our staff here. I want to close out the podcast by saying, if you'd like continuous updates on what's going on in the world of Medicare, you're always welcome to follow us and my company on your favorite social media page. You can find us at Christian Brindle Insurance Services on Facebook. You can find us at Christian Brindle Insurance on Instagram. Christian Brindle without the E on Twitter, because we couldn't fit all the letters. Christian Brindle on YouTube for educational YouTube videos that I have put out, where I go over basics and things that you need to know. Christian Brindle Insurance Services on Tumblr, if you're on Tumblr. And visit our website, www.christianbrindleinsuranceservices.com. And thanks to our folks at Anchor who distribute our podcast out. It distributes it to multiple 20 to 30 different platforms and websites. So however you may be listening to this, we are grateful and we appreciate it. Anchor is now allowing us to accept donations to increase the quality of the podcast. So if you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can donate $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. It helps us bring you more effective content, and I've promised since we started doing this that if we get enough donations, I will start doing 2 podcasts a week instead of 1. So if you like what we're doing, share it with a friend, share it on your social media page so your friends can see it, and help us help other people. That's the way it comes down to. Help us help as many people as we can, because we don't ask for anything in return by doing this podcast. It's free information. We don't charge you anything unless you want to donate. And my agenda is to pass around information that otherwise is close to impossible to find on your own. And I believe that's by design. Don't get me wrong here. It's completely calculated. And I think it's wrong. And we're out to change an industry that needs to be changed for the better, to help people. Folks, I appreciate you listening. Like I said, starting next week, we'll have your podcast for you on Sunday. So look for it on Sunday, but on most platforms you can listen to it whenever you are available to listen to it. Thank you so much for listening. You are fantastic. You're a superstar. You're incredible and you're amazing. I'm Christian Brindle. This is the Everything Medicare Podcast, and I'll see you on Sunday.